Grüß Gott. Yeah, I feel like crap too. I think this is going to be an intro to the brakes video, but I don't know. I need to download the stuff off the camera and see how long it is and go from there. So, this is me looking like crap. My hair's going everywhere. No contacts. I haven't shaved. In fact, I didn't shave on Saturday and then I started breaking out like a 16-year-old or something. So, sporting my crappy shirt from... Actually, I got this on my honeymoon in Hawaii. Don't know what to say. I'm like not feeling well. I'm sitting here eating really bad stuff, Captain's wafers, because we're out of anything appetizing at all to eat. I don't know. These just seem like they'd be tasty. They're not really. And I'm drinking. I know it's got caffeine in it, but we're out of non-caffeinated beverages, so the thought of drinking water is just not appetizing. That, and I haven't really eaten since about 3 o'clock yesterday. Well, I had a Pop-Tart, half a Pop-Tart this morning, so. Anyway, I just wanted to say hey, I'll keep this really quick and try and put up the brakes video, and I'll talk to you later. Servus. Today we're watching Rich replace brake pads. Out come the lug nuts. Actually, they're bolts. Crazy Porsche. They're stronger than nuts and a stud. So I'm making Rich do his own brakes because you go to the track, you wind up going through brake pads a lot. And it's ridiculously easy to change pads on a Porsche, so Rich is doing them at least once. It is kind of time consuming though, so in the future we'll either like ply our friend Ahmet with wine and get him to do it, or just, I'm sure Porsche would probably not charge you much for doing this, since they like you. Off comes the tiny wheel. I can't see him in the way. Hoo-hoo, purdy! Actually, it's pretty cool. I don't know how well any of this is going to come out. So this being a Porsche, that's the engine, it's in the back. You see? Maybe. That's all engine. That stuff. These are very nice looking, probably cast aluminum suspension pieces. So the big round thing with, I don't know how much you know about cars, the big round thing with the holes in it is a rotor. This is a brake caliper. It's got two sides. So you can see it has these little brake pads that are back in here that squeeze on the rotor and stop the car. Okay, I'm in the way. So there's this little pin that holds the brake pads in. It's like a tiny little cotter pin that comes out. Well, theoretically.
Almost out.
See if I can see. Well, Rich isn't in the way. So this little thing here is a pin that's holding the brake pads in. There's a little spring underneath it. Here's where Rich breaks his knuckles. I wonder how many things I'll have to bleep out.
God,
well, there's one. This is a family video. And it's easier just to hit the little pin out with a punch. Keeps the spring from going sprung. The little wire, there's actually these sensors in the brake pad that wear, and a little light on the dash will come on to let you know it's time to change your brake pads. Doing.
Yep, doing.
Poing, there's the spring. And then magically, a little bit later, the pads just slide out. So Rich is compressing the piston slightly. And out pops a brake pad, which looks slightly overheated. It's not supposed to look quite so pitted. So he's changing pads partly because they're worn, partly because he wants to put a more aggressive compound, brake compound that will stop faster. Look at it! Look at this! It's like it's supposed to be up to 60 degrees today. It's crazy. And we have like, so we have way too many cars. There's my Porsche, that's the white car in the back that I drive on track. That's a little white Miata that I inherited from my dad when he passed away. That back there is a Toyota pickup truck. It's a 2005 Tacoma that we bought for hauling yard trash and that sort of crap. And then we have Rich's Porsche. So we have 5 cars. This is ridiculous. So here's the pad that came off the car. This is the side that rubs on the rotor. Oops. There's the back. You can see the 2 little circles where the pistons squeeze the thing. And it's got a, you can see the little hole right there. Zoom in. There's just a little wire that sticks in there, and when the pad wears down past that point, it basically the rotors wear through the wire. And that's what causes the little light to go on.
Can you run around the corner and get the pads for me, please?
The proper German brake pads. So new pads in, those are the orange things. That's a punch Rich is using to hold everything together. So a little pin goes back in. What are you looking at?
Just looking at the wear.
Oh.
Well, one side looked like the outside's wore more than the insides.
Just nice one-piece calipers. Some serious brakes, man. So, ta-da! Instant brake job. Now that the new pads are in, you need to bleed the brakes. These things actually have, because it's what they call a one-piece caliper. There's pistons on both sides. So you have to bleed both the inner and the outer sides. This little cap that comes off, well, theoretically comes off. And you attach this tube from a little bleed bottle under the little nipple. It's like the head of a little bolt almost. And you loosen the, call it a bleed screw. You loosen the bleed screw, and then I go step on the brakes for Rich. And ta-da! A tube full of brake fluid. which is a funky blue color in this case. Because we're using special high temp racy brake fluid. See if I can, yeah, you can see the bleed screw. Oh well. She gets new pads and new rotors on the front. It's a nice chunk of metal there. Oh, it's a heavy chunk of metal. Ow. Look how pretty. Your rotors are so much prettier than mine are. On the Type R. Off comes the wheel. Ah. It's less interesting than the back. Yeah, it's still got a bunch of plumbing and shit. Sorry. Compress the piston. Out comes the brake pad and the spring. And repeat for the other side. Remove the sensor wires. Well, since the new pads don't have sensors, the little sensor wires just get zip tied up out of the way so that silly light in the dashboard doesn't come on. Next, off comes the little brake line bracket. Next, the caliper bolts come off. Well, theoretically.
Eventually. Oh, come on, get in there.
And then, because we're lazy bastards, the screws come out the rest of the way with the air ratchet. Theoretically. And we tie the caliper up out of the way. Theoretically. Much cursing ensues. Next, the little screws for the rotor come out.
You hold the rotor, please.
So, rotor removed. Rich is checking. He's playing with steering wheels. He's supposed to be checking wheel bearing.
Ooh, you hear that? Feel that?
No, I can't feel it because I'm not doing it.
You're supposed to be able to feel something in the bearing when you rotate it.
So the strange grinding noise may not be Rich's brakes after all, but instead a failing bearing. So the project may expand.
No, seriously.
No, you gotta brush that stuff off. Yeah, and it turns out that the bearing's going, so. Rich will finish this anyway, and then it goes to Porsche to get a new bearing. If you were really brave, you could do your own bearing, but it's not worth that. That would take a while. You'd blow an entire weekend doing that. It's much easier to pay what's his name. And on goes the new rotor. In goes the screw. In goes the other screw. On goes the caliper.
You have the bolts?
Caliper bolts get torqued down. And we put the little brake line bracket thing back on. That's real exciting. I said you look like you're being consumed by the car. Kind of like sticking your head in the lion's mouth. Look, that was my birthday present. Rich bought me a MIG welder. See? There's the little gas tank. Nothing says love like an arc welder, baby. I actually haven't had a chance to play with it yet. I did have to put a socket in for it though. See, it's a big 50 amp, 240 volt, kind of like a dryer socket. That was fun. Not really. Next in go the anti-rattle clips. This is the part we edit heavily because this is where all the cursing comes in. These things kind of stick to the back of the brake pads and clip into the pistons and the caliper and keep the brake pad from squealing when you step on the brakes. But they're a pain in the ass to get in. Sorry, I'm trying to... See, you can just barely see the pistons. Focus, Danny. Right there at the top, and that one at the bottom. So with the little retainer thingy in, the backing comes off. More cursing ensues. And the new pad goes in. Very carefully.
God, that's tight.
This is the part that's like assembling an atomic bomb. The detonator is in. Repeat the process for the backside. Look, they're real life German parts. Made in Germany.
I must be backwards.
Ta-da! 2 brake pads. Then the little pin and the spring go back in. So now we bleed the brakes. And on goes the wheel. That's it. Changing brakes in 227 semi-easy steps. Yeah, I just thought I'd just mention real quick. So the brakes on the Porsche are really easy to do. They designed them so that it's a one-piece caliper that's got pistons on both sides that squeeze the brakes, or squeeze the rotor between the pads. Most cars have a two-piece design where you've got a piston and then a, sort of the C-shaped thing. So there's a brake pad here, there's like the piston and the brake pad here, and so the piston will push between the inner brake pad and the little C-shaped thing and squeeze the rotor that way, which is probably the style that you have. On those, typically what happens is there's, if you look at the wheel from the side and your calipers here, there's bolts on the top and the bottom on the inside, and what you do is you remove the bottom bolt completely, and then the entire caliper assembly just sort of pivots around that top bolt. So you pivot it up and remove the brake pads from that little C-shaped carrier thing. Then you know, put the new pads on and try and hinge the thing back down without pinching your fingers and cursing too much. But on those two, you wind up having to compress the piston a bit, because with the brake pads worn, it tends to stick out a little bit, so you need like a pair of water pump pliers or something to squeeze the piston to force the thing back in so you can get it on. So anyway, that's it. That's the brake video. I'll talk to you later.